and welcome to our first episode of Blue Dynasty Unplugged. Today we have a very special guest helping us kick off this very first episode, Mr. Real FRG, Clint Pasillas. Clint, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you taking the time.
Hey, I'm stoked to be here, Robert. Like getting something off the ground. Great time to do it. Pitchers and catchers are about to report, going for a three-peat, and you know what? There's never enough Dodgers talk in the world. We need to be talking about this team, and I'm happy we get to do it here today.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate you. Now that the Super Bowl's behind us, I'm sure you've had your fair, talk about Super Bowl. I heard you're a big gambler.
My moments.
Uh,
I got
from
I
from
got them singles right here, baby.
there you go.
We bet
Um,
dollars on weird things. That's our thing. Not like I'm not a serious gambler, you know. If I don't bet, my hand doesn't start shaking. I'm all right.
there you go. But now that we have the Super Bowl behind us, baseball's back. One of the things that stood out to me, and I really kind of wanted to get your thoughts on it. Some of the guys showed up to spring training early this year. And I think it's kind of it's not a usual thing that I've seen, at least myself, right? But what do you attribute that to? Do you feel that that's just where this team's culture is going, or is it that the guys are just excited? They're everyone's looking for this three-peat, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a combination. Mixing that in there, there's an excitement level, getting the gang back together. Over the last few years, obviously, this team has grown very close together, very tight knit. Going through the grind, the dog days of summer, and then the grind of the postseason and all that. You learn a lot about each other, you grow together, and you enjoy those few months off. But they start to get spring weather going. I start to see the days get a little longer, the sun stay up a little longer. You're like, it's about time I get back together with the boys and start throwing a baseball. And beyond that, beyond the camaraderie, yeah, it's the anticipation. It's how do you make a team that has just won its second World Series in a row, how do you make them even better and go for that three-peat? Well, you inject two of the best players the two best players that were available that the team needed in free agency with Edwin Diaz and Kyle Tucker. So you get all of that, you get the excitement, you get the drive, the hunger, the desire, and these boys are going to be ready when
Yeah.
when it's opening day. That bell rings. Boys are going to be ready.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, and one of the things that stood out to me too this offseason is, how aggressive the front office was, going out and picking up, two of the, like you mentioned, the two of the top free agents on the market. It's something that really speaks volumes to,
Yeah.
where this front office is heads at, and what their goals are for the year, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we've been kind of anticipating this for a while. We've heard over the last 10 years, honestly. Maybe not that long, like 8 years. I could think back to Bryce Harper's free agency. Like they're in on
Yeah.
this dude. They are in on these guys that are at the upper echelon of the market, but probably unwilling to go the 8, 9, 10, 13 years to land them. Now they've made this place just such an absolute destination experience for baseball players to, yeah, not only are you going to get paid very well, but you got the best chance, not even arguably, the best chance to win a World Series. You got that going for you. Players want to come here, and the market has finally, after years of Andrew Friedman and company waiting for the market to kind of come back to them, the market is approaching them. The market is saying, yeah, you know what, 3 years for whatever it is, $60 million a year. I think I could do that. I could do that. All right. My name is Kyle Tucker. I'll go play baseball with you. Or my name is Edwin Diaz. I'll go play baseball with or for you. Yeah, it's crazy to think about, 15 years ago, thereabout. Frank McCourt era, what Dodgers fans had to kind of endure and suffer towards the end of that to now, you got a $400 million payroll, and the Dodgers are ruining baseball, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
about it.
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, and on that note, ruining baseball, that we hear a lot of, you know, I guess haters, you want to call them, right? Saying, "Duh, you guys are ruining baseball because of all these great signings," right? But what really what I really look at is also the development, right? All these guys like River Ryan, Gavin Stone, guys who could potentially make an impact, right? On this team. But let's talk a little bit about Roki, River, and Gavin, right? Because in my opinion, those are the pitching X factors going into the 2026 season. There's a lot of there'll probably be a lot of slow play, at least in my opinion, for as far as we know Blake Snell is gonna
Yeah.
be slow played. Almost guaranteed Otani will be too. And also Yoshinobu, he'll be slow played too. So I think these three guys are gonna, they'll essentially end up playing a big role. But what's your opinion on this? Because, Roki's developing two pitches, right? Or
Yeah.
one or two, right? We know River Ryan developed a new pitch, right? That's a mystery pitch. Nobody knows what it is. And
We love a
then we
mystery.
don't really hear much about Gavin Stone, right? But these are the three guys that I think the team is going to look to as as these superstars get ready for the regular season.
Yeah, for this Dodgers team, to borrow from my buddy D-Mac, he'll call it a wealth of pitches. The top four guys, if you're healthy, if they're all healthy, arguably the best top four in baseball. Detroit giving them a little bit of a run for their money with the signings and move. I guess really one signing, adding Framber Valdez. But beyond that, if you're looking at a fifth starter and a sixth starter, and then a little bit of depth beyond that, Gavin Stone. We just spoke with Dodgers pitching coach Mark Pryor on Dodgers territory last weekend or last week, and he was reminding everybody of how good this dude was when he was healthy and dominating in 2024. This is a guy who almost I would say for a number of fans is kind of an afterthought. There's all the hype and everything surrounding Roki Sasaki, and yeah, you mentioned him trying to mix in two pitches, a cutter and a two-seamer. A lot of hope with that cutter to play off of the four-seam fastball and the forkball splitter and all that. But the options that this team has, it's crazy when you think of, and I overuse this, way back machine of just a couple years ago, Lance Lynn throwing meaningful postseason, not even games, one meaningful postseason game for the Dodgers to now you got Yamamoto, you got Shohei Ohtani, you got Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, and beyond them, a
Yeah.
dude who could have been an all-star in Gavin Stone, Roki Sasaki, who has all of the upside in the world, Emmett Sheehan, who was arguably the most consistent pitcher for the team last year after he returned from the injured list. And then, other guys, River Ryan, who extremely small sample size, but the stuff is nasty. And adding a pitch, adding some bulk, hopefully to help
Mhm.
him stay a little bit healthier, a little bit, take some strain off of that surgically repaired forearm and elbow, and the keeping the shoulder together and all that kind of stuff. And then there's other guys, Kyle Hurt, Landon Knack for some depth, Jackson Ferris, who was just added, invited to Major League Camp as a non-roster invitee today. All of those guys, no, to borrow from Mark Pryor, he said all of those guys are going to be throwing innings for the Dodgers in 2026. And, I don't care who throws the most innings or makes the most starts during the regular season, as long as you got the best for whoever it is. If Blake Snell's not amongst the best four, same way last year with Clayton Kershaw. He's like, I'm not one of the best four starters. I don't need to be in that rotation. If Snell's not one of the best four, Yamamoto, so on and so forth. If they're not the best four, somebody better plug in and step up. And it's going to be exciting and absolutely one of those storylines you're watching in spring training. What are those, particularly those three or four dudes at the back end of the rotation? What are they going to be doing?
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. What we're gonna want to see. What's how's Gavin Stone gonna bounce back, right? How's River Ryan gonna bounce back? How is Roki gonna take his second year in the majors, right?
Yep.
And is he gonna build off of that postseason run that he had, right? As a reliever or as the team's
Yeah.
closer,
Yeah. A little bit
right?
of confidence goes a long way for him, I think, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Who do you, you talk to a lot of insiders, a lot of people who are, within the mix of, the Dodgers organization. Who do you feel will have the most impact? Who's gonna provide the most meaningful innings in 2026 between those three? Roki, River Ryan, and Gavin Stone.
That's tough. I really would love it to be River Ryan just because I want to be like right about him. Um, Roki Sasaki, I'd say the Dodgers need a win, and obviously it's almost a joke because they don't need a win. But to win on Roki Sasaki and continue to upset fans, the haters around baseball, like Roki worked out to go from that kid who was crying after having shown up crying after having a bad outing against whichever team it was early last season to the dominance at times in the postseason to becoming a quality starting pitcher. I think that'll go a long way for this team, for his development. And I think between those dudes, but the back end of the starting rotation, if Roki works out, that's going to go a long way because the upside is there, the team control is there, and yeah, dude just has dominant stuff when he's right, and he's got the velocity on the fastball.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, we know that rookie of the year is out of the question for these guys. They've already put in their time, but the upside is there, right, for
Yeah.
all three. Uh, you know,
River Ryan technically would be eligible for Rookie of the Year. I don't think he'd end up if he throws enough innings. Sure, he's in the conversation, but that would be I think there'd be a lot of things that went wrong if River Ryan or let's say a Kyle Hurt are in contention for that. A lot of things went
right?
wrong with the main plan for the Dodgers. I'm
Yeah.
hoping to it though.
Do you see Kyle Hurt in the starting rotation, spot starts, or do you see him in the bullpen primarily?
Uh, I think they might try to extend him a little bit. Not, I think they will try to extend him a little bit to start spring training. His future is absolutely as a back end of the bullpen kind of guy. The dude has a couple of pretty nasty pitches with the fastball and the breaking ball, but I can't even I can barely remember what he throws right now and the I know the fastball is nasty, the control is nasty, but the bravado of the guy, I think he has that mental makeup to be somebody that if he's not a closer in the future, he's going to be an absolutely electric middle reliever, like a fireman type of dude. That's where I see Kyle Hurt. But again, to
Yeah.
start the year, you're probably going to see him getting, up and the up downs, getting two, maybe even three innings, as that will be the need for the team early in the year. A lot of like what we saw with Ben Casparius last year, where he was throwing multiple innings when he was out there, but eventually keep him to one inning and just let it eat.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is Mookie Betts. Mookie, he just came off a season where there was a lot of doubters out there, I guess, whether he was gonna be able to maintain his defense at shortstop, maintain that position, hold it down, as they would say, right? Um, but after a full season of playing short, he ends up being one of the a Gold Glove finalist
Yeah.
in 2025. You know. Mookie is one of two players who has expressed during this offseason his the ambitious goal of getting a gold glove at that position, right? He spoke to David Vassay about this. The other one is Teoscar Hernandez, who's recently in an interview came out and said that he's been putting in the work as far as defense, and that one of his goals is to win a gold glove, right? Now, one is probably more likely than the other, right? But at least in my opinion. But how do you see that shaping out in this 2026 season? Do you see? I mean, let's just start with Teo, right? Because he's probably one of the longer shots in my opinion. Do you see Teoscar improving enough to make a run for Gold Glove?
Improving enough for a Gold Glove, no. But Gold Glove, that award itself is it's so like finicky. Like if he has a mediocre defensive season, but hits 50 homers, he'll likely win a Gold Glove in left field. So, to be not a absolute liability in left
Yeah.
field. I think that is his goal. That needs to be his goal. And it is crazy with Teoscar Hernandez because he has the foot speed. We know the arm is solid enough. He has the ability to catch a baseball. It's just about that first step and kind of the routes tracking a baseball that at times sort of escape him.
Yeah.
So hopefully the move to left field. The position isn't the easiest. None of them are on the outfield, but some of the balls that might have eluded him in right field, like that kind of like teardrop floater between the first base, second base, like that hole. You won't get as many of those in right field, and I think that'll help him out a lot. It's just about going to be for him about reads and first step. But to the question, yeah, I would. I don't know. I'll do a barrel roll if he is a finalist for Gold Glove in left field or anywhere in the outfield in 2026. And
There you
that'll hurt.
go.
That'll be bad. I can't do
Yeah.
a barrel roll.
You guys heard it here first. So, here's another question. This would be an interesting thought, right? Let's pretend Teo was in left, right? Last year doing that game, what was it, game six or game seven, the catch is what they're
Oh,
calling it, right?
yeah.
Um, you know, it, do we have a different outcome, with Teo in left
Are
in
you
that
talking
situation?
about the Kike Hernandez cheating
Deacon
play, the
and
double
Pockets.
play? Yeah, yeah. Oh, that one. Okay.
Or
Because there was
actually both.
Yeah, because there was a couple of them. I mean,
Both.
Teo does not get that play from Kike to Miggy Row. I don't think Teoscar makes that play happen. Because Kike, he came out and admitted it. Like I said, "F you" to the report card or the scouting report, whatever. I cheated in, and he got a really really good first step. The stars aligned for him to be able to hear the baseball off the bat and hear that the bat cracked for him to come in, make that play, and double off. I forget who the runner was at second base there. Um,
Yeah.
Shout out Miguel Rojas for making that stop. The other one in left center there with Kike and Andy Pajes. I think it would not have been as close, and Andy Pajes probably would have ended up being the dude to catch that ball. But maybe Teo would have been in a different position or would have read that pitch, that hit a little bit, the ball off the bat a little bit different because Kike also admitted, oh crap, I broke in on that pitch, on that hit. And would he have caught it doing that basket catch over his shoulder? Maybe, maybe not. The world will never know. But different outcomes for sure.
Yeah.
That game
Yeah.
six in particular, the double play to end it, I don't know that happens.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, and I agree with you. One of the things that has always worried me about Teo is obviously his defense,
Yeah.
Um, but you got to take the good with the bad or the bad with the good, right?
Yeah.
As far as with Teo. I would like to see Teoscar, at least in the postseason, as much as I hate to say it, platoon him. Platoon Teo with, because let's just say we're taking Kike is coming back to the bank, right? Kike
Yeah,
is
he
coming
won't be
back.
back. He won't be
And
back.
so, I think it's safe to say that a lot of Kike's time will be spent in the infield. I don't think it's out of the question that he'll sub out there in the outfield, take some reps in left, give Teoscar a break here and there, especially
Yeah.
if he's slumping. But I would like to see something like that, get Teoscar off his feet,
Yeah,
and go
late
ahead.
game defensive replacement for sure. You can see that they did that a lot in the postseason last year. The thing is when Teo's right, like he's a grown up in that lineup. He's got a grown up bat. That ball goes very far when he makes contact. And you saw it early in the postseason last year as well when he was kind of feeling right. He expanded the zone a little bit.
Yeah.
In the later rounds, also was facing better pitching, but early on, against the Reds and then against the Phillies, a couple massive homers that helped the Dodgers, advance to the next series, and saw a lot of that in 2024 as well. Like the clutch is there. He has a clutch gene, and he has the ability to hit the baseball out of the stadium at Dodger Stadium. during the colder climate of like October, because baseball does not fly as far then. So I think that's keeping that bat in the lineup as much as you can, to me, is pretty important. But if it's a drastic change, when you're talking about, are you losing more having him out there on defense and left field, like weighing your options or weighing like the worst case scenario. If he's really bad, well, you need to explore some options. And you know um what happens during Geektober when Enrique is around. He does some pretty
Yeah.
special things as well. So really good options. The thing that I love about this team and the way they will eventually be set up once Kike returns, there's a lot of competition, and they'll always be battling each other. Same with the starting rotation and those guys we spoke about earlier. They're going to be pushing each other to need to be better because somebody is breathing down their neck to try to take that job or take some playing time. Same with Alex Call, somebody like that. Ryan Ward, maybe he gets an opportunity and is able to run with it in the outfield. I don't expect Ryan Ward to be making starts during the postseason, but these are guys that'll all be challenging and pushing Teo to be his best version of himself. And Dodgers fans, we know what he can do when he's right. You just need to keep him healthy, keep him happy, and keep him throwing some seeds while he's at it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, let's talk about a little bit on Banda, Phillips, and Kike. These are guys who, let's start off by saying Dodgers, you guys broke a lot of fans' hearts, and it wasn't mine, I'll tell you, okay? There's a lot of fans out there whose hearts were broken when Anthony Banda was DFA'd.
yeah,
But guys like Banda, Evan Phillips, Kike, who, you know, um, some of us hope to see them back. I don't know so much about Anthony Banda. I think his time is done with the Dodgers. But Evan Phillips and Kike, those are the two that I would like to see the Dodgers bring back. I know that everyone says Kika's the lock. He's coming back.
yeah.
It's not official until it is, right?
Fair.
But what do you think? Do you see Evan Phillips, right? Do you see him coming back with the Dodgers sometime this year?
Yeah, we had a little bit of a conversation about that on Dodgers territory recently. People wanting to know when's Evan Phillips coming back. Obviously, he is still recovering from Tommy John surgery last year. Um, I think both sides would love a world where they are reunited. Evan Phillips kind of made a name for himself here in that Dodgers bullpen, and anytime the Dodgers have somebody who has the ability to close games, has that kind of high leverage ability, they love that type of dude. But let's be fair, let's be realistic. This is a very stacked and loaded bullpen, and it's not only a can he come bounce back from the surgery, be as good or better than he was, and is somebody going to open up an opportunity? Let's say Gratterall, we're waiting on Brewstar to come back, and he's expected to be fully healthy to start spring training. But if he's not good, or Henriquez or whatever, like he would be down. He would have to climb a lot of dudes on the depth chart, as it were. To find a way back into a high leverage spot. So there's kind of like the roster side of it that works against Evan Phillips. I think he's good enough to where if they signed him and he's healthy, he would get that opportunity real quick. I'll take Evan Phillips over Brock Stewart any day of the week.
Yeah.
With all due respect to Brock, I love Brock Stewart, good dude. But on the other side, if I'm Evan Phillips, and I know my legitimate free agency is just around the corner, and I'm seeing all of these dudes above my name on the Dodgers depth chart in that bullpen. I would be a little worried. I'd be a little interested in finding somewhere where I can get some opportunities to potentially save some games, potentially earn a number of holds, and put myself on display for maybe a multi-year deal somewhere. Same with like Anthony Banda. You mentioned Banda. He's been great for this team over the last two seasons, but eventually it becomes a numbers game, and they just ran out of, I guess, kind of roster space to be able to let him not even figure it out, because he pitched what he got into 71 games last year or something like that. He was good, he was great, but there are other options and pitchers who have options that made it a little tough for him to find his way sticking on the active roster there. I think that's if I'm Evan Phillips, I'm thinking that way. As a fan, I would love to see E Philly back, but I think a few things need to fall a certain way. And luckily for him, he doesn't need to make a decision now. He doesn't need to make a decision until like June or July or something like that when he actually starts getting off of a mound. So I'm interested to see. That'll be one of those storylines over the course of a season that you watch, you see where he ends up because there
Yeah.
will be opportunity for him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. At the end of the day, this is a career, right? And he has to do what's best for his career. I would love to see him back as well. Fireman Phillips, he was awesome. Um, but like you mentioned, sometimes you just have to do what's best for you. Or, if the stars align, and everything falls into place, then great, I'd
Yep.
love to have him back. Um, so, today the Dodgers released their promotions,
Oh yeah.
bobbleheads. Are you a big bobblehead guy?
I wouldn't I don't think I've ever been a big bobblehead guy. There was a point where I would definitely go to a game to collect the ones that I really really wanted. Now I just, going to Dodger Stadium can be a chore at times because it's such a popular destination during the season. So less so. These days, am I a big bobblehead collector? But looking at that promotional schedule, in particular, the Game 7 series where you got Miggy Rowe, you got Yamamoto, you got Mookie Betts with the game-ending double play, and who else was in? Oh, Will Smith with the game-winning
Yeah,
homer. That's an awesome series. Would not be shocked if at some point they add, Max Muncy's eighth inning homer to that as well. But knock the Dodgers just knock it out of the park with bobbleheads. It's insane. I think there's what 24 on the calendar or something like that for
yeah,
the 81 games, and they will add more. They do
yeah,
every
yeah.
year.
I think they even did a Shaq one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing a Shaq one
There's a Shack. There's another Ice Cube in the car in the blue Chevy that somebody reminded me was a Chevy, not a Cadillac, because I was an idiot earlier. Um, Dave Roberts in there is a whole bunch of really cool bobbleheads. Interested in seeing those, and interested in seeing how much the secondary market is going to be charging for some of those.
for sure. Yeah. Hey, and speaking on Dave Roberts, I did see that his son took a coaching job with the
Oh yeah.
Tigers. Um, I hadn't heard much about him myself, right? But seeing that and seeing that obviously he's following in his dad's footsteps in the sense where he's coaching, right? Um, do you foresee some time or a world, right, where he could eventually end up in the Dodgers organization, either sometime later on down the road while Dave is still coaching, or even when he retires?
I think with Cole, just because he doesn't really have outside of obviously his dad, he hasn't had much of a tie to the organization. Right now he's out there getting his feet wet. He spent a year or two seasons, I think, as a minor leaguer with Diamondbacks. Did not quite work out for him, and he sees an opportunity to get into some sort of front office role, coaching, whatever it may be. I think he would need to cut his teeth a lot, like let's pretty similar to his dad's career. Dave spent some time in Cleveland Dodgers, and then he just bounced everywhere. Over the course of his career before eventually finding the perfect job here in Los Angeles. I think if you know Cole keeps his head down and works hard at his craft in sharing whatever knowledge he may have or insight to whoever he's working with, if it is like a minor league coaching role or maybe if it's scouting or whatever it is. I didn't see exactly what it is. Um, the Dodgers, Andrew Friedman would say we love to identify, all sorts of talent, whether it's in, on the field or in the front office, and they assemble the best of the best. So it's kind of up to Cole. If he gets good at his craft, he could very easily find a way home, but I wouldn't expect it for quite some time. And in terms of taking over for Dave, let's say, or being somewhere in the dugout in a post Dave Roberts era, I think you got guys like Justin Turner,
Mhm.
Austin Barnes, Max
Miggy.
Muncy, Miggy Rowe, all of those guys probably ahead of him on let's say a coaching or, managerial depth chart, at least in my purview. But hopefully we don't need to worry about that for a while. I think Doc owes himself maybe another 10 seasons and like, I don't know, 9 more World Series rings and we'll be all right.
I know, right?
Do it for us, Doc.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, that would be quite the career. I think he would. Yeah, I mean, he's already a Hall of Fame
Oh yeah.
caliber, coach. But ending his career, and giving another 10 years, and bringing home a few more championships, would be incredible, right?
Absolutely.
Um,
Best manager in Dodgers history. I'll die on that hill right now.
I agree. I agree. I think some would say that's debatable, but
Yeah.
I would agree.
Different
Um,
eras, I mean, I'm not taking that statement isn't taking anything away from Walt Alston or from Tommy Lasorda. They have their place in baseball history and Dodgers history as
mhm.
the other two most important leaders of the organization, leaders of the team on the field. But what Doc has been able to do, and yeah, he's had a lot of talent around him. So did Walt Alston. Tommy probably got away with the least amount of talented, on his rosters to end up winning 2 World Series. But it's a different game. It's a different era. Everybody's throwing a million miles an hour. Everybody's bigger, stronger, faster than anybody was in decades prior. And Dave's growth in his role and his ability to connect with these players and basically bring multi-millionaires together to what we were talking about to start this chat. All of these guys are showing up to work early because they're excited for this. They're excited to get back together with the boys and go out there and win again. It starts with Dave Roberts. That
Yeah.
mentality starts with Doc.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. It starts from the top, right?
Yeah,
And that's with any organization that's successful, right?
absolutely.
It starts from the top and trickles down to the bottom. So seeing the excitement of these superstar players wanting to be on the field early, wanting to get this work in, right? It makes us as fans excited for the season as well, right?
Absolutely.
And there's nothing more like it. I've told people time and time again, recently, what a time to be a Dodger fan. It's an incredible run. We can say the last 10 years at least, have been amazing. Yes, of course, there's been, we've had our share of disappointing seasons. Um, but we still made the playoffs most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, we can't complain that much. There's other organizations out there who, would love to be, in the postseason as consistently as the Dodgers had. So,
Yeah, I mean division winners 13 was it 13 of 14 years. You made it to the World Series 5 of those years now. I think 6 of those years now. It's I always tell people don't take this for granted because it will go away at some point. Maybe it won't go away for a while, but we will eventually fall on lean times where they don't pick the right people or they don't have enough talent in the minor leagues to put something together. I think it's a long way down the road for them, but there might be a time where they don't make a postseason, and we're going to be like, what do I do with my hands right now? What am I supposed to do for October? I mean, I'm sure the boys wouldn't mind an October off, but still, I
for
enjoy being
sure.
in the postseason.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And things could have easily gone that way, right? Let's just say, knock on wood, but let's just say Otani would have gotten injured, right? Had some kind of a freak accident his first year as a Dodger, and he's out for, the next year and a half.
Yeah,
Things would have looked so much different, right? So,
absolutely.
things have to fall into place. People need to be healthy. Everything needs to go the Dodgers way in order for something like this to happen. And we are fortunate enough that we have, ownership right now that is 100% invested in making sure that this team, that they put out a winning product year out over year, and it's you can't ask for anything more. So,
Absolutely not. Give me this
um,
for the rest of my life. I'll take it.
yeah. Bold predictions. So I'm gonna have to ask you, right? what is your boldest prediction for the team
Man,
overall?
man,
Boldest prediction.
I've been putting these off because I know this is eventually going to be a show either on either of the shows that I do. Um, so I haven't thought about it a whole lot. I don't know. It's a bold prediction. I did have a back pocket. Like I think somebody who's going to take a massive step forward this year is Ben Kasparius in the bullpen. Why it just came to my brain, so I decided to write it down and then say it on the internet. Um, I don't even know if this is a bold prediction, but you mentioned Mookie. We didn't necessarily dive too much into Mookie, but Mookie entering his second full season as the shortstop. He's going to be hungry to get back to the All-Star game. He's going to be hungry to be in the MVP conversation in 2026. And the only way he does that is by getting that bat going again, getting back to being the Mookie Betts that we know who can hit 30 some odd homers, is going to hit somewhere around, 296. I'll say that's not somewhere around. That's a very specific number I decided to say. I think Mookie is going to be in the MVP conversation in the National League. He's not going to win it because Shohei Ohtani is still alive and breathing and is playing baseball for the Dodgers this year. But Mookie's going to finish in the top three. I think at some point it's a top five. I'm going to be a homer. Mookie finishing in the top three in MVP voting. Um, After the season he had last year and the unprecedented move from being a right Gold Glove right fielder to now a Gold Glove finalist shortstop, for all of that to come together, that feels like a pretty bold prediction. Bold enough for me.
Yeah, no, I think so. Um, I'm gonna say Roki. I'm gonna say Roki is gonna build off of what he did, during the postseason, and he's gonna play a key role this year. He's gonna be, and this is pretty bold. We know that Yamamoto, put the team on his back a lot of the year. There was a lot of injuries. He, pitched throughout essentially the entire season.
Yeah.
Um, Record number of innings pitched. I don't think Roki will do it to that level, but I think that the Dodgers will lean on him because of his performance this year. So, whether, someone goes down with an injury, or I think Roki will be that constant to where, as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be that guy.
Yeah, I mean that would be a massive taking a huge step forward here in year two in the big leagues. He needs it. The Dodgers need it. I'm trying to see. Okay, so he did exceed his rookie limits last year. I was going to say, is he still eligible for Rookie of the Year? But he is not with what 8 starts, 10 games. Really? Come on, that's only 36 innings. They're doing me dirty here. They got to do better. But even so, Rookie of the Year in my heart. That
Yeah,
would be
yeah,
cool.
for sure. That would be
Yeah.
that would be cool. Um, but all right. Well, we're out of time. Clint, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Guys, make sure you tune in to Clint's shows. He's got the All Dodgers podcast. He's got Jeff. It's him and Jeff on there, and he's
Yep.
also has not Foul Territory, but it's part of the Foul Territory network, right?
Yeah.
It's Dodgers
Yes.
Territory with
Correct.
Katie Wu and Alana.
Yep.
So make sure you guys check that out. I'll be sure to link all that stuff in the description. But
Appreciate it.
Clint, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you.
No, this is a lot of fun, man. Hopefully we got a lot of celebrating ahead of us.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. This is Robert with Blue Dynasty, and follow for more Dodgers talk.